Hey everyone, and welcome back to QWERTYcast. This is our cozy little podcast where we talk about indie games, PC gaming, and all of the stuff in between. Today I'm with Dave and Steve, half of the host roster, and we're ready to send you off of 2020 with what I'm guessing is going to be a very nice conversation between the three of us.
Should be.
Yeah. So, hi guys, how are you guys doing?
Good.
I'm wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm great. I mean, we're about to end 2020, which, I don't have to be the one to say that this has been a super weird year for everyone, but I have loved our focus on gaming throughout the whole year. I've loved that I just keep falling into like these addicting games with friends, and I've been like playing so many things with like people parties, even games that I like just revisited or that came out before 2020. I feel like 2020 has definitely been the year for group gaming, and it's been really exciting.
Renaissance.
It has. Yeah. I wish I had recorded it, because I said super early in this year that these kinds of things, these kind of like incredible like events that affect everyone in the world, these are the times where we get art renaissances. And so I guess gaming is getting its own renaissance. We are sort of in that golden age, or at least leading into it.
Yeah, and it's been a good year for it. A lot of great releases, a lot of hype content. I think that gaming's going to be looked at, hopefully, in a different light than we've seen over the course of the past couple decades, just purely because entertainment is really something that a lot of us are clinging to right now. So hopefully, it'll really bolster the opinion moving forward.
Also, in this time where you can't be around people, the interactive medium where you can feel as though you're doing something with friends, because you are literally doing something with friends, is very beneficial for gaming. Though let's not forget that many timelines have been pushed back severely. Whether that's an indie game or a AAA game or something in between, this has really messed with a lot of development cycles.
And that pressure, gaming is already kind of infamous for not handling timeline crunches and pressure very well, especially on the health of their devs. So there probably will be a lot of news for us to follow and have to keep up with on like the health of devs at certain game companies, and just checking out the best practices of the game companies that we already love.
Yeah, and not just health, but overall wellness. Like
right.
I'll talk about this a little bit more, but the reactions of the overall gaming community, or at least the vocal part of it, to certain different crunches or releases, has to change. But
yeah, it's a double-edged sword. It's on the dev side, but it's also on us as the consumers. We need to talk about both ends of the problem.
We need to do that. Yeah, we need to give games more just more time to breathe after they're released. I feel like I too often find a game that was super popular for a month have comments in the Twitter feed that just say dead game. Fall Guys, for one example. And we'll get into this, but games are going to continuously release DLC. That is just part of the nature of like gaming now. And we need to be aware that, we're not going to be satisfied when one release anymore. It's going to be over time, like a TV show.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the great things about this podcast is we give the indie developers, the groups that probably need the most help in this process, a second look in and a little bit more of an exposure time. Because a lot of times, there's that initial opinion that hits you, and then there's the opinion that you have after you've sank 10 hours into it. And hopefully we've given people the opportunity to spend a little bit more time with some of the games that we love and some of the games that we're promoting, to give them a better look in.
Absolutely. Well, so speaking of what we love, the first thing that we usually start with now is going to be the news roundtable. So, starting with Dave, you had some news about this game jam, actually a co-game jam, I think, happening on itch.io, right?
Yes, I do. And I appreciate that as an apology, you've put me first in the news cycle, ahead of you.
It's alphabetical.
Okay, it was not an apology. I'm not sorry for anything. I didn't do anything wrong. But I will say that I will like mix up the host just because that feels natural.
Now we're doing pick from a hat.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Except it's my hat, my hand, and you get no say in the matter.
All right, cool. So the first one that I'm gonna highlight is actually the one that I kind of stumbled across using one of my favorite resources, which I will do a little shout out to after I've talked about the game jams themselves. But it's 7D FPS 2020. Submissions were initially supposed to be from December 4th of 2020 until I want to say the 13th of 2020.
Yeah, it was just a week.
Yeah, it was just supposed to be 7 days in your local time zone to create a first-person game. So I guess let me
11th.
first give the overview. Oh, yeah, sure. It's a game development challenge. They did it in 2018. They did it again for 2020 to make a first-person game in 7 days. Their little about section is challenge yourself and first-person games by creating a game that takes us to new places in new ways. It doesn't seem to be much of a theme other than that it has to be first-person, which I really like. First off, I like first-person perspective games a lot. It really helps me feel as though I am the character, no matter who that character may be. But I'm going to go down to their FAQ really quick on their itch page, which is itch.io/jam/7dfps-2020. That's where you can see the overview. You can find links to their Discord, their Twitter, and the actual submissions of the game, which you can, I assume a lot of them are free to try. And any sort of comments or ratings that you can give on them, please do it. Devs always appreciate as much feedback and visibility as they can get. These smaller indie devs.
Especially with itch, it's so easy to just leave a review. They usually have it in the top right corner.
So my favorite is the FAQ, which is FAQ/what are the rules? And the question is, can I ... And the answer is yes. So it's basically anything goes here as long as it's a first-person game.
Yeah.
And they actually extended submissions, so this runs through the entire year of 2022, the only thing being make the game in 7 days.
Right.
That's it.
Like, that's just your goal. So,
yeah.
I love the game jam thought process of just giving developers kind of like a very vague set of rules and just go have at it.
Yeah.
It's really creates some crazy concepts.
Well, yeah, and as Andres was talking about, that does kind of give into this golden age of creativity where it's not like, oh, do it within this parameter, make it has to be a shooter, it has to have whatever, nothing, just it's first person and do something unique, do something fun. What's an idea that you've wanted to test out? And so I guess that leads me to the fact that they coincided with another game jam called Procjam, Procjam. I assume Procjam would be the easiest way to say that. I think the PROC might be something along the lines of procedural generation. Because it's a laid back and relaxed jam about making things that make things.
Ooh, okay.
So we do things like designing video games that generate their own levels, or making card games that tell stories, or creating artworks that are random or unpredictable. It's an exciting, different way to be creative, and Procjam is here to help you get started, find friends, and have fun with it. They also have a Discord. Their itch is itch.io/jam/procjam. That's PROCJAM. The theme this year was renewal. They did close off submissions, so they ran for that same time frame of December 4th to December 13th. But you can still see their submissions. You can still join their Discord, which I actually did, and they have people talking inside of it still.
Nice.
My favorite thing, though, is that they have resources that they provide. There's hours of talks, there's tutorials, there's art packs, and once again, the rules are simple. It has one rule, and that's make something that makes something.
Make something that makes something. So
and that's just vague enough that you can do anything.
Right.
But
right.
we're still talking about a game though, so it's like
right.
The first game that comes to mind is like Baba Is You.
Sure,
which
yeah.
is kind of like, you know, that weird engineering. I don't know. Kenny once mentioned it like, if you like coding, you'll like Baba Is You.
Okay.
Or
see, it's funny because go ahead.
Any game that has procedural generation, you know, think of games where the levels aren't the same. You know, like every time you play through it, it's different. That
I was thinking of like those old text-based adventures, because if you give it a large enough library, you could potentially have it generate its own stories.
Oh yeah, there is one that already does that. I can't remember.
Oh really?
The name of it.
Okay, we'll have to find that out and then give the developers a boost at some point.
Yeah, I mean it was pretty popular. And they did a second one. I can't remember. I wish I could remember the name off the top of my head, but I genuinely can't. Excuse me.
We'll have to have a last time on the podcast.
Yeah. What is it? Flashback music cues.
Yeah. It's a Procjam. That sounds so cool.
Yeah, it was procedurally generated. I just found that through too. But yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I'm glad that you found this game jam to check into.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to read through some of on my own time, I'm going to read through some of the games and hopefully bring some to highlight potentially as other games on, you know, my other section that we won't talk about this week. But
nice.
the games that I'm going to highlight this time around are all from these two game jams. There's one. And the resource that I found these on, which tipped me off to these game jams, was alphabetagamer.com. They highlight different alphas and betas of games, or like game demos, you know, things that haven't fully released, a lot of stuff that's in early access, and they oftentimes highlight game jam games, since they're not always completed concepts. You know, it's 7 days, and what you get done, you get done. And it gives me a good resource to find games that are like up and coming by indie devs that really actually take a shot at something unique. So the first one I'm going to do is You Did It Faster Before, which is a physics-based speedrunning parkour platformer
that sounds awesome.
that has different unlockable abilities. And you basically, and you just move through their world.
A roguelite platformer? That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And just looking at the image of the game, it seems like a really fun thing. I'm actually going to check it out probably later today, if not tomorrow.
It does look kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it just looks silly, and I want to check it out.
I feel like the title is almost poking fun at us already. Just like, yeah, you know that you like that repetitive when you're dying over and over and over again in like a level like Celeste, and you're just, oh, I know I was doing this better, and I'm getting worse.
Right. Even those times in Hades where you do one run and you're like, how come the last run I got all the way through it, and this time I died in the second stage? What the hell did I do different?
What the fuck? Okay. Yeah, keep going.
So then Hammer _space is another game that seems interesting. The description on Alphabet Gamer says it's an inventive first-person stealth puzzle action game that encourages you to break the game as you use a hammer to break the walls and dive into a no-clip hammer space.
Wow.
I don't really understand too much about the game yet, but I'm just kind of taking a look at it right now. It seems to be missing quite a lot of stuff still. But it seems intentional. Like I'm reading the description, it says you've been given a leaked build of an in-development FPS. The problem is that it's not finished and it's missing a lot of the objects you'd ordinarily require to play through the game.
And that's the game that requires the user to make the game,
right? So then you discover a big hammer that you can use to kill enemies, but it also like breaks the actual walls of the game so that you can go through and like go through the different levels and see, I guess, the rest of the game. It seems like a really interesting concept, which is why I want to see it. I certainly want to bend my own mind when I play.
I like the fact that you're bringing jams up in the conversation, because I really do hope that they get a lot more publicity and a lot more viewership as we continue to move through the age of video games. Because a lot of these great AAA ideas, I feel like, start as, you know, small group development concepts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool that the jams are really fostering that mentality.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. I think that game jams have a lot of these unique ideas that don't ever get pushed forward, and I hope that more of them get greenlit, especially the ones that really deserve it. I won't call out any specific ones, but they seemed to be rehashes of ideas, which is cool. You know, if you're a new developer, there's nothing better than reimagining a game that's already been made, because you at least have a really solid groundwork.
Exactly. And that's how you make the best iterations of a genre that's already been established.
Exactly. The last game I'm going to highlight really quick is called Infinite Pizza. It's an infinite running game where you slice your way deep into the cheesy heart of an infinite pizza. It was created for both 7 DFPS and Procjam.
Oh, that's cool.
Ooh. So the description here says that it plays a little like a first person version of Super Hexagon. So if that gives you an idea of what kind of style game it is, I hope that helps. Those are just 3 of the games that I'm going to check out, but looking at it here, I mean, there's so many. So there are 233 entries into Procjam 2020, and as of the time of recording, there were 194 entries into the 7 DFPS 2020.
Oh wow, nice.
So those are that's my segment. I don't have too much else to talk about. I just wanted to highlight a couple cool jams that popped up for me that I want to definitely look more into.
I appreciate that, because I'm not going to get too far into it now, but my segment is going to be about the larger game awards that are happening, or that happened. And now you just kind of inspired me to check out what Itch has on its main page, because they usually do. But in the meantime, I would love to move over to Steve's topic.
Yeah, so we're going to get a little controversial on the podcast today.
Hell yeah.
So what I'm going to be talking about, actually, which I'm not sure if you guys have heard about this, but there was a indie game that was announced that it was going to be released on GOG, and within 2 days, GOG actually rescinded that announcement, and it caused a lot of problems for the gamers and retweets and comments, and it was a big controversy. So what I'm talking about is Devotion. It's a Taiwanese developer, Red Candle Games, created a first-person psychological horror game that a lot of people have been really interested in, and it actually released originally back in February of last year. What happened, though, was gamers noticed that in a certain section in the game there was a wall where the Chinese text could be translated to basically say that Xi Jinping, which is, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong and I apologize, but he's the general secretary of the Chinese Communist Party, was Winnie the Pooh, and which is actually a reference to a meme that started back in 2013. And the only reason that it's kind of it's continued to live is because of the fact that Xi Jinping has taken such a negative stance against this, and he's actually banned Winnie the Pooh films in China, and he's banned his image and the likeness of Winnie the Pooh on the internet, and because of that, it's kind of added fuel to the flames. So when this originally released in February of 2019 on Steam, within like 5 days, the gamers had basically review bombed because of that line in there. And the developers for Red Candle Games basically said it was a placeholder text. It was never meant to make it. It was a failure in their QA checks. The game was removed, but it never got placed back on the market. So that's been completely removed from the game at this point.
So they did remove it. Okay.
They did remove it. And they had been working over the last, year and 9 months, 10 months to try and get this game back released on a major platform. I guess they came to a deal with GOG, and on December 16th of this year, they announced that it was going to be released, to huge applause. A lot of gamers really excited for it. But within 2 days, GOG came back out, said, hey, we're actually not releasing this game based on a huge number of negative comments that we've received at our headquarters. Now, what's interesting and what's kind of the controversy here is that some analytics that were performed on the comments and retweets around this have basically proven that the vast majority of users are actually upset about the fact that it's being removed again. Most people wanted to play this game. So whether they're referencing some type of, physical letters that they received or some other form of contact, whether it be emails. We're not 100% sure. The internet hasn't been given any kind of proof of this negative commentary other than the review page on Steam 2 years ago. So unfortunately, GOG, which if you guys aren't aware is owned by CD Projekt Red, basically this week in December was just a really, really bad week for CD Projekt Red. And we'll be talking about the other somewhat controversy in the tech cafe section later on. But CD Projekt Red is not having a good week. Hopefully there will be some resource for us to be able to access this game. It looks awesome. I watched a couple trailers for it. I watched some of the gameplay footage from when it originally released. If you like the horror genre, it seems like it's right up your alley. It's a first-person perspective, jump scare and all. So hopefully there will be some resource for people to be able to access the game. But as of right now, not on Steam, not on GOG. If I find a resource for getting access to it that is 100% legal, I'll let you guys know in the future. But as of right now, Red Candle Games seems to be out of luck with being able to publish this.
I wonder if they have any other games.
Yeah, I'll have to look into it. I know that this is like their pet project. And when you say Taiwanese developers, and if anybody's familiar with the global policies right now, Taiwan is in a weird situation with China, and their relationship is not very healthy. And so it's not surprising that something like this would have existed in the game in the first place. But obviously, because we have to cater to everyone, it became a really big sticking point, and they were right to remove it. I just think that it's carried through, and it's really been a detriment to their ability to be able to release this.
From what I can see, Red Candle Games has one other game. It's called Detention, which is an atmospheric horror game set in 1960s Taiwan under martial law. It released January 12th, 2017. It out of almost 8,000 reviews, it's overwhelmingly positive, and in the recent almost 100 reviews, it has very positive.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, and that's really cool. I'm looking at the Detention now. So Devotion's also, it's in 1980s Taiwan. For the first day that it was released, it had overwhelmingly positive reviews. So it seems like most people really enjoyed it. I'm surprised that Detention didn't get review bombed just as a side effect of Devotion. But if the first one was so highly praised, I imagine this game is just as good. So it's a real shame.
Yeah.
This is really crazy. It's insane that it's insane that they removed it, and there was the controversy held to it so well that it still had this negative connotation. That's going to be obviously really bad for the game company itself. But I mean, I feel like I've been having this conversation with people a lot that media is leaning towards China these days, and not in a good or bad way, but we are becoming less and less of the audience that matters globally in the United States.
It's just interesting to see that there's this consumer profile shift. And you're right. I think that plays a huge part in this controversy in particular, is that obviously GOG and CD Projekt Red are feeling pressure from something. And where, I find fascinating is that although they've come out and claimed it directly, there hasn't been a whole large amount of evidence to support what they're saying, which is that the majority of the commentary that they've had in relation to the release of this game has been negative, because everything that at least I'm able to see, and based on the analytics of the report that I've looked up, was able to view through Twitter, it's almost overwhelmingly been, why did you remove it again? We really want to play this game. So you would think that from a financial standpoint, GOG would be very interested in releasing it, because obviously that's sales on their platform. So there's definitely some outside source here, and it may just purely be that they received a huge overwhelming amount of commentary that was directly to them and not through social media. But it's kind of hard to believe, considering that social media is the way that we communicate nowadays.
Yeah.
So it's not my place to say, but definitely a huge controversy right now in the GOG and CD Projekt Red's.
It's also worth noting that a lot of that commentary could be coming from sources that are more in control of the media. It could be coming from Chinese sources, that commentary. I know this is another controversial thing, is how many games are now kind of in the background funded, if not partially owned by some major Chinese corporations.
Really?
Yeah, I want to say that Bungie when they got out of their Activision deal, was it? For Destiny 2 to get sole ownership. They got major money from I forget which developer or which company it was. I think a publishing company based out of China. And then same thing with Diablo Immortal, I believe, is one of those games where it's big money from China actually going straight to Blizzard and Activision for that.
So to reference what you're talking about, it looks like Bungie received a $100 million cash infusion from NetEase, which is a Chinese tech company that we've seen associated with a lot of mobile games recently.
Yes.
And that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And, you're always going to receive pressure from your financial sector before you see it from your consumer sector. So, yeah, I mean, it's something, hopefully there'll be workarounds. Like I said, as soon as I find a way of accessing it, because I'm interested just to play it. I enjoy the horror. I think you guys have been playing Phasmophobia. I just picked up my Oculus Quest and I've been testing it out and scaring the living daylights out of me. So I like the genre. This game had a lot of hype, and it was only ever on the market for 5 days. So if anything, there's more hype now.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, at least.
But
yeah, so that's what I've got today. But I'll definitely keep you guys posted on it.
Thank you.
Right on. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
I didn't even know anything about that. So
what that
thanks
phrase
for calling
is.
that to my attention.
The forbidden fruit.
Yes. Yeah, it's got that feeling. It's like, oh, I can't play it, so now I really, really want to.
Oh my gosh. Well, so I guess the last thing in the news roundtable would be game awards for the year. We're ending out the year. We have everybody saying like what's their favorite games of 2020. And it's not going to be too much to report on because I would say go check out those game awards yourself. They're, doing the work to look at games, vet them, and get community responses. The big one obviously being the Game Awards of 2020. That took a really center stage this year. I feel like almost as much as E3 does sometimes. And it was kind of surprising to me because, to be honest, I hadn't really heard of the Game Awards before this year. But it got so much press coverage. If you just Google it and go to the news section, there's just every 3, 4, 5 pages of coverage about how important the Game Awards was. It had, I think, 83 million people watching.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's because of the underwhelming performance of E3 this year, which usually is when we kind of all get our gaming kicks out of the way?
And I don't think
it's a combination
yes and no.
of that.
Because it wasn't it wasn't underwhelming because it was disappointing. It was underwhelming because of COVID.
Well, yeah.
And so, but yes, I think there's this phrase that we've been using at work sometimes where it's like, when are we going to go from surviving to thriving? And I think that at least with gaming, some people are definitely in that mode. Like, oh, this still works for us. We can work from home. We can work from these offices in separated space. So it's like the Game Awards felt like a culmination of everyone finally getting comfortable again. And it's just exactly like E3 was super underwhelming because we couldn't do anything back then.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm really interested in some of this stuff. So what information you got for us?
Well, I mean, I was just basically going to say like the games, they mostly, highlighted AAA games. But the games that we are going to be looking at are like the indie games. Hades took everything.
Oh, it killed it.
It just killed everything. It was like on every single recommended list. It was on everything. Hades was just like a monster this year, and everyone's recommending it.
What did it won like best action in a game as well? And I thought like, as much as I love Hades, I thought that against some of the other games that were on that, I felt that it was undeserving of specifically that one. But
well, for the Game Awards, it won. Let's see, it won best indie. I think what it deserves. Exactly. I think what you're thinking of in Best Action is the other game award that I was going to highlight, which is the Game Awards. You showed me this, the Game of the Year Awards by PC Gamer. And they do a yearly Game Awards as well, but this one is ongoing. So although they haven't released every single one, like today they released Best Action Game is Hades. Yesterday was Best Ongoing Game, which isn't indie, it's Final Fantasy 14. I guess. Yeah. Yeah, if I can
Which
read.
is a fantastic game.
And then they're going to keep going down. So it's going to go best roguelike, adventure game, co-op, card, innovation, VR, multiplayer game, RPG, FPS, strategy, and then game of the year, revealed on December 31st. But so by the time this episode comes out, you'll be able to see most of that list published. And like I said, most of these game of the year awards are focused on AAA games, but indies have definitely been leaking more and more in there. Hades, Among Us, Fall Guys, those are the big games that have also kind of taken everyone's heart this year. I'm just gonna, let's see, what were the other indie games that were nominated? Carrion, which Kenny played and he was obsessed with. Spelunky
which
2
I
and
just
Spirit
played, by the
Fair.
way, and I was
Which
not a
one?
fan of it. Carrion.
Which-
I've been like running through all the games that are on Game Pass that I
Mhm.
really wanted to try that I downloaded. I actually am about to uninstall Carrion after we're done recording this because I was not a fan of it. I felt like maybe mouse and keyboard would have felt better, but I felt like the controller, like the gamepad controls were kind of clunky, and I couldn't get into it.
Well, Andres, if you were to dub the indie game of the year, which one would you say was at the top of your list?
I mean, it's hard not to say Hades
Okay,
because
yeah, I mean, that's fair.
because it did just like kind of like take. I mean, but I played so late, although I still got really into it. I just loved that it. I really like roguelikes, right? That just keep doing the repetitive dungeon crawling, and the fact that they played the story into the repetition of dying and coming back to life. I thought that was so clever because people don't often do that. And I think one of my favorite things in gaming right now is when they use death in gaming to propel the story forward. And they are aware of the fact that you keep dying.
And Hades killed it. No pun intended. Well, actually, pun very intended. I was waiting on that.
They really do, yeah. The other game that comes to mind, I know this is such a random one, but like Doki Doki Literature Club. That you don't remember about that one? Oh my god, it was this. I'm
gonna have to look it up.
It's this horror. It's this. Okay, let me think. It's a love sim, point and click kind of, and but it's a horror game. So you play through the love sim, and then something horrible happens, and then it resets the game, and then that's when it starts getting scary. And then the thing of it was that it was so clever because the metadata inside the folders that you have the game saved were changing. And so the code would change the metadata, and it would basically feel like the game was organically getting mad at you for trying to turn it off and not fall in love with the right one. And
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was really clever, and I really want to see more games do that. I think I played a game during my like itch bundle Twitch streaming that was kind of like that. I think it was called Project Cat, and it was also a horror game that seemed like the game was breaking while you were playing it. So I just to say that, you know, my favorite games right now are games where it feels like the game is kind of organically working and learning alongside you, which I feel like is going to be more and more of genres that people explore, is this meta commentary.
I want to piggyback on this really quick and say I was right. In the Game Awards, there was a category called Best Action. It's for the best game in the action genre, focused primarily on combat. The nominees were Doom Eternal, Hades, Half-Life. Is it Alex?
Yeah, Alex.
Yeah. Okay. Neo 2 and Streets of Rage 4. And personally, I probably would have given that to Doom. Just because like the visceral combat of that game is like, it's very graphic. It's very much like Doom is about the action. That's the only point of it. There's not really like this great story. There's no. It is an action game. And
I think that's what makes me lose it a little bit with Doom, is because where most games kind of have like you know, peaks and valleys of like gameplay, Doom just hits you with the peak and then you stay there for the entire
but
game.
there is a merit to that, and especially in my opinion, again, I love Hades, and I think that it definitely deserved best indie, and like best indie action game I could definitely give it, but like best action in a video game in all of 2020, I think I would lean toward a game like Doom, where it is literally all action all the time. That's the only point of playing the game. So I felt as though Supergiant Games was given that win with Hades based on the fact that it was Hades, not based on the fact that it had the best action.
What was a category that was interesting to make so much sense, though, that was mostly popularized by indie games, or mostly populated with indie games, was games for impact. That was like a category of games that, you know, have emotional impact on the player, and like the story is very important. And the games that were nominated for that was If Found, Kentucky Route Zero, Spiritfarer, Tell Me Why, which I think is the only non-indie game in there, and Through the Darkest of Times. But
it's cool to see that indie is really being like the poster child for story-driven right now, or you know, emotional capacity.
Because you have to, you know, otherwise, you're not going to spend as much time on the mechanics.
Also, it's AAA games are the safe bets. I mean, they're like the blockbusters of movies, right? Like they're the safe bets. You know, we're gonna make, you know, Halo 12 before we make not Halo. And then I actually liked another one that's good to bring up is that Among Us won 2 categories. It won best multiplayer and it won best mobile game. Once again, I thought a little undeserving of best multiplayer due to all of the bugs. Definitely great support, though, in that they've worked very hard to fix a game that they never anticipated would have this large of a player base.
That it came from like 2016, I think.
Yeah. Which is the other weird thing about the Game Awards, is like the games didn't have to release in 2020. There just had to be like some sort of significant increase in popularity or increase in whatever to qualify into these categories, it seems.
So let me finish this segment out with, do you guys have an opinion on your best 2020 game?
Oh, I would have to like literally...
If you want to think on it for a sec, I actually have just a few more games that I would mention that I didn't get to play this year that I wanted to.
Well, before you do that, let me give you mine, because I'm quick to it.
Do it.
So, in the indie game genre, I think my favorite game this year was Undermine.
Oh, I played that. I talked about it on the podcast.
I think you did, actually, yeah. I think it was your discussion of it that made me jump into it in the first place. Okay. It's a roguelite, and it plays very fast. It's easy to follow. If you like... trying to think of a comparison, like Binding of Isaac, and you probably discussed this in the podcast, but it's very easy to pick up, very complex in its capabilities, plays like any other roguelite, but it's got some really interesting mechanics for boss fights. And I loved that it was free for a decent period of time on the Xbox Games Pass. I'm not sure if it's still up. It's been a little while since I've touched it. But if I was going to pick an indie game this year that I played the most, that was probably that one.
Nice.
Fair enough. You know what? I think probably just for the amount of times that I return to it, I guess there's going to be 2 for me. And I'll give you 2 categories. I'll give you overall favorite game would be Risk of Rain 2, because of how much I returned to it. And I know that
did come out this year, the 1.0.
Yeah. And then the best recurring game for me, Path of Exile. I go back to it, and I always go back to it at the wrong time, right when a season's about to end. But I consistently go back to that game. They nailed that ARPG gameplay so well. And
when the next season starts, you and I are going to get together, and we're going to start from day one. That way we can actually get to the end game togetger.
Fucking at me for it.
I will.
I'm all about it.
100% will.
Nice.
And I'll stream it too. I don't care. I love that
Lock
game.
and key. Set that in.
Yeah, no, I'm saying it now. Like if you at me,
I'm putting it in the calendar.
We do that.
Okay.
I will
put it in the calendar. Awesome. I love this.
We'll Twitch it up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shit.
I'm all about it. Andres has played it too. Maybe he'll join us.
I honestly, if it was like a thing like that, I probably will. It's just not having the motivation to jump back into it, but I enjoyed it. I just never. That was the first Diablo-esque I ever played.
Okay.
Oh wait, other than Ultimate Alliance, but I don't know if you can count that.
I mean, I guess
I mean, we should be getting pretty close to an announcement too, because they usually follow like a 3.5 month cycle, and I think this season started in September, right?
This season will end like very early into 2021, essentially.
Okay, so
They
yeah,
actually
so
had
we're getting close.
Yeah, they broke it for a second. I was playing, and they were like, "Oh, the season's ending. You can't play anymore." And that was like this. It was like a day after I got into playing it again. And I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And I like looked online everywhere, and it's like January whatever, like January 10th or I'm spitballing.
Yeah.
It's a rough date. I don't remember what the actual date was. And I was like,
Well, as soon
come
as
on,
we
come on,
get
come on.
Yeah.
What? It's saying this, and it's December 10th, and now it's saying that it ended. And I'm like, I was so mad. Very heated.
No, we're gonna do it. QWERTY presents.
Exactly. QWERTY presents.
I
Path
can't
of
wait for Path of Exile 2. Like the actual
which,
2.
Based on the way that they had discussed it previously, it's literally just gonna roll straight into it.
Yeah.
So it'll be the same client, just new story. So
Right. I'm all about it. 1,000%.
that's a good choice. I like it.
I have so many more games that I keep wanting to talk about too. I'm probably gonna bring most of them up that I have listed during our About Us segment. But if we keep rolling on and move into our podcast minigame, I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with the thing that we came up with today. So,
Yay.
I mean, we haven't done a minigame in so long either.
We haven't.
I know.
It's because we
been a
have
while.
so
We
much to
should
talk
definitely do
about.
This was Dave's idea too. I really like
I
it.
know.
I like it.
I've come up with an idea, and it got approval, and that's all I can ever ask for.
Dave, would you like to introduce us to your podcast game idea?
Yeah, I haven't come up with a catchy name for it, so if you've got ideas, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, improv the name of the game as well, because we're going to be improving everything else.
Right, so this is largely based on just a little bit of improv. We're going to read the description of an indie game, preferably something that people wouldn't know, but if it is a game that people would know, you've got to kind of get creative with your own description. The people who are listening to the description then have to come up with the name of the game. And then the person who revealed the game, or who read the description, is going to reveal what it actually is and just give us a little bit of detail on it, and where you can find out more, whether it's available now, who the developer is, that kind of stuff, if you have that information available. If you don't have all of that information available, it's all right. But we tested this game out with one of our friends, and we had fun playing it.
So you could totally do this with your friends in Discord anytime.
Absolutely. And whatever game title that we decide is the best, whether that's the original one or ours, we're adding the developers, and we're gonna make them change the name of it. We're gonna start a petition.org.
Petition.
Yeah.
Would you like to start us off?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm gonna be describing here. This is a free-to-play multiplayer game where you'll be able to unleash your inner Daenerys as you sit atop huge fire-breathing dragons and compete to become a legendary Dragoneer. There are 3 different game modes, including a 6v6 team deathmatch, a 6v6v6 last dragon standing,
Oh my god.
and a twist on a capture the flag attempt.
Oh shit.
You know, it reminds me of like what was that old? I think it was like an NES series. It was like Dragon Lancer, or oh man, it had something like that. But that's what it sounds like to me.
So we have a direct Game of Thrones reference, but that's probably not in the game title. I wouldn't.
Sure.
think.
I mean, I'll give you another little synopsis. Multiplayer dragon combat game that allows you to jump on the back of a variety of different fire-breathing beasts and attempt to burn your rivals out of the skies.
How to Train Your Dragon multiplayer co-op.
Just like bluntly.
Right, just like straight ripped.
Damn it. All I can think of is like A Dance of Dragons. But that is like would be straight ripped from the title of one of the books.
That's fine. You can do it. Is that
go
is that
for
your
it.
submission?
Yeah, let's
All
go
right.
with a Dance of Dragons.
the word dragon is not used in the title at all. It's actually called Century: Age of Ashes. This game looks really good. It is in early access. You can see it on Steam. The planned release date is February of 2021, but you can request access to join the playtest direct through Steam. The developer is called Playwing Ltd. I'm on their website right now, and they have one other game that I can see called Instant War.
This was not what I was expecting. I'm watching a gameplay trailer of it right now. Like, in my mind, this was like retro pixel art. Yeah. This is really good looking.
Right. It looks really sick, and I'm genuinely going to request access to play this game because I want to play it with all of you guys. I want to burn all of you alive.
All right, so the next in the calendar, when we all get access to this game, we're doing it.
Absolutely.
Gosh, I should have been writing like every... I'll write it down later. Whatever.
All right,
it's in the podcast.
Exactly. I'm gonna listen to it anyway.
Yeah. So who's up next?
Steve, would you like to go?
I'll go next. Yeah. So I interpreted the rules slightly differently. So I'll say up front, I picked two of my favorite indie games, which are well known, but I wrote my own description for them.
I'm down for that.
So let's see if you guys can figure out what this is, and hopefully it's not too easy. So the description I wrote for the first one is: the forest spirits are concerned as an evil corporation starts to poison the hearts and minds of a small ocean town. You have an opportunity to keep the old traditions alive or let the corporation take over in this top-down economic dating simulator.
Top-down economic dating simulator.
Can you reread the first half of that description really quick?
Yeah. The forest spirits are concerned as an evil corporation starts to poison the hearts and minds of a small ocean town.
Okay.
Nature's Revenge.
So, without giving too much away, and it might be, but the name of the town is Pelican Town.
Oh.
You still have me.
I mean, I know what it is.
I don't. I don't genuinely.
So it's an economic dating simulator.
Economic dating simulator.
I don't know many that are. Is it Farmville 2.0?
Yes.
I'm gonna submit
Farmville
corporate
Escape
interests.
from the City.
Corporate interests in
quotes.
Quotes. Like wink.
All right, you guys want me to tell you what it is?
Yeah.
So it's Stardew Valley. Do you guys remember the Junimos? They were like the forest spirits, and they were upset because the JoJo Mart was taken over.
Yeah, see, this is how far I got into the game.
I
met them.
I love your interpretation of these rules. I think that's what we need to do next time. If we play this game again, I think it needs to be...
So now there's two games.
I like both.
Okay.
All
right.
Okay, here's mine. So this is, let me make sure I don't have the name of the game. Okay, cool. This is a charming adventure game wrapped around a unique, world-altering puzzle mechanic. Use this power to explore mysterious lands, help a quirky cast of characters, and guide the protagonist's journey back to her family.
When you said world-changing, I immediately thought Fez. No, but then you said a quirky cast of characters.
Yeah, so it is more than one person. So, charming adventure game wrapped around a unique world-altering puzzle mechanic. And the world-altering is kind of like top-down.
Okay.
It's a very short name, too, so you're not going to get it, but I am interested into what you think this would be called.
I'm going to go with Tetris RPG.
I would play that.
Yeah, I would too.
Like you delete a row and then you kind of like beat the game and you end up playing one of the blocks leaving the Tetris map to go home. So it's like you're like
but you can't conform to a Tetris, otherwise you lose your life.
Right, exactly. So everything in your world is incomplete.
It's anti-Tetris.
Everything in the world is not Tetris. Yeah.
You go the wrong way, you actually get entered back into the queue to be dropped down into the Tetris board.
That's the trick.
Gosh, I'm so bad at coming up with names. I guess I'm gonna just go ahead and say, I'll just give you Lost Girl. That's my name for you.
Lost Girl. The game is called Carto.
Carto.
Yeah.
Like a cartograph, like a
cartographer.
Cartographer,
Okay.
Yeah, and so the way that it looks is actually you have like these tiles that represent your world, almost like Catan. But what you do is you move the tiles around in your world map to change how the world works.
Oh, it's literally
so cool.
a world building game.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting.
So it's like you have, let's say, 6 tiles, and like this is grass, sand, sand, grass, sand, sand. You could move the sand to the other side of the grass. When you walk to the left, now there's sand over there.
Quick update. Roland says hi, and that he loves all of you.
That's cute.
And now, Steven, you said you actually had a second one, so let's do a little bonus round.
Wait, I have to say the developer is Sunhead Games. And this is the only game they have on Steam. And if you look for Carto game online, they are available on the Switch as well. It's an incredibly cute looking puzzle game. So
we have to check that out.
Yeah, find them on Steam. You can find them on the Switch if you have a Switch. So yeah, wait, I think Dave, you were going to be next, right?
I did one. I didn't have two. I only had the one.
Oh, okay. Cool. Well, Steve, yeah, I have another one just to be safe.
Well,
okay.
Damn.
Yeah. We'll do them both.
Exactly.
So in the same vein as last time, I wrote my own description, and this is a very popular game, and I doubt very highly that you guys are going to get this, but a local cookie enthusiast, known only by a prominent article of clothing that he consistently wears, receives constant phone calls with varying employment instructions that he misinterprets and proceeds to kill everything in his path. Incidentally, all the locations he visits houses members of the Russian mafia, and in this top-down retro shooter, it's either kill or restart 100 times until you get it right.
Oh, okay, I know what this is exactly. Immediately.
Damn.
But he's a local cookie what?
Cookie enthusiast.
That's the lore?
I'll explain.
I'll
explain.
Okay.
Sort of.
Okay.
Do you want me to read it one more time?
Yeah, I needed a second pass of that.
I think the last sentence is what'll give it away, but a local cookie enthusiast, known only by a prominent article of clothing that he consistently wears, receives constant phone calls with varying employment instructions that he misinterprets and proceeds to kill everything in his path. Incidentally, all the locations he visits house members of the Russian mafia, and in this top-down retro shooter, it's either kill or restart 100 times until you get it right.
Actually, maybe I don't know what it is.
I think I do know.
All right, let's take some guesses.
Okay.
But
Dave first.
Oh God.
You're probably right.
No, I'm not gonna guess anything close to what it is. I'm gonna say that I'm gonna give this a completely different spin. I'm gonna pull a Sesame Street here, and I'm gonna call this
I was thinking
Cookie Monster's Conundrum.
All right, there you go.
Cookie's Revenge.
Yeah.
I think Hotline Miami too, but I'm not sure now.
Yeah.
So it is Hotline Miami, the original.
Yeah, I was going to say Hotline Miami.
And the reason why I say cookie enthusiast is if you remember at the beginning of the game, he's told that he's getting a delivery of cookies, and when he opens up the box, it's the different masks.
Oh.
So and then if you look at all of the phone calls that he receives that gives him instructions on who to kill, they're always written in a vague way that's like, you need to make sure that this hotel guest's stay is perfect, or we have an infestation of bugs, or like it's always written in like an employment instruction where he's just constantly being called to do odd jobs, but instead kills everybody.
Oh my gosh. It really is. This game's so insane. The only game I've played since that has like the same vibe is Katana Zero.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one. So
check it out, you'll love it.
There's another game with a similar vibe. I believe that it's called Door Kickers. It's got a very similar concept.
It sounds like it would. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right, Andres, you do your second one, and I've actually thrown a second one up for myself, which bonus has been renamed since its release.
So it's going to be even harder.
At least.
All right.
There, go ahead, Andres.
So my next one is A wild tale of love, death, chickens, and redemption. This is a buddy cop noir adventure with a carefully crafted world, a gritty story, and lots of absurd horror. Humor. Very, very different.
Changes the game.
Okay, so let me know if you want me to reread that.
Yeah. Do it
I'm
one
gonna
more time.
Read it one more time.
Okay. A wild tale of love, death, chickens, and redemption. This is a buddy cop noir adventure with a carefully crafted world, a gritty story, and lots of absurd humor.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Ricky Rooster 2, Out of the Coop.
Ricky Rooster.
I'm gonna do KFC : kill foul chickens.
Kill foul chickens. I love that. It is Chicken Police.
Chicken Police.
Yeah.
There was a reference to this earlier in this podcast.
Was there?
Yeah, I think you had mentioned it, but I didn't know what you were talking about.
Exactly. I snuck it back in. The reason, I keep thinking about this one is because I was on Black Girl Gamers on Twitter, and they had a what were your favorite 2020 games? And the comment section in that was dope. Like, there were a lot of really good games, and now I want to check into, like, Caves of Cud, which is with a Q, or Bug Snacks.
I played that.
Which
You
is
want to
also,
chicken
like,
too?
Chicken too, yeah. Damn it, now I can't think of another poultry pun. But whatever. That game was there. It looked hilarious. BGG replied to it as in, like, immediately checking this game out. Because it's all, like, cardboard cutouts of animals in noir clothing. And they're having... It's like... what's that? Yeah, it's just a LA noir, but with anthropomorphized animals. And there's apparently... like 8+ hours of recorded dialogue that you can get through.
I love that.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
really.
All right.
That's really cool.
All right, Dave.
Yep.
All right. Let me finish this off. This game is and I'm once again I'm pulling these straight off of Alpha Beta Gamer. These descriptions. I didn't have time to make my own. Well,
Oh,
I
right.
didn't think
Chicken
of doing
Police
that
was
initially.
from The Wild Gentleman.
Okay. So this game is a spectacularly chaotic first-person platformer in which you have to leapfrog between a herd of stampeding 18-wheelers with an aim of reaching the finish line without touching the ground. So that's the game. The game is that you have to get from start to finish by jumping on large trucks.
So it's Frogger on top of the cars.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you saw an image of it, you would see how it's not entirely that.
Okay.
I would actually, based on this image, I would liken it to what was that first person free running game that everybody loved?
Mirror's Edge.
Mirror's Edge. That's it. Yep. So that
Oh.
one. So it reminds me of Mirror's Edge.
Never mind.
Yeah.
that.
So
Gary says
Andres
Temple Run.
used Temple Run, the mobile platformer, which that spurred its own genre. It's funny because Andres, you said Frogger. I was gonna call this Frogger Urban Danger Zone.
All right.
Let me see. The trucks are lava.
The trucks are the part that isn't lava, but
Oh.
I love your inventive title.
Everything
How about
but the trucks
Tarzan
are lava.
Highway Edition.
Right.
Tarzan Highway Edition.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm about it. That's my
Okay.
favorite one. That's the part of the game that we forgot to do, which was vote on the best title.
Oh yeah,
Um,
they're all great.
but so
It's
this,
developing as we go.
Yeah.
this game was previously called Highway Flight Squad.
Okay.
And they've now renamed it Cluster Truck.
Oh, okay.
I have
Um,
seen this.
Yeah.
I knew it. It was like first thing that came to mind was like Human Fall Flat for some reason, and this kind of does. I think this might have been developed in the same engine at least. This looks hilarious though. It's just trucks. It's just
Yeah.
18
So
wheelers.
this was developed, I guess, by Landfall.
Yeah.
Looks like the publisher or the developer and publisher, which also did Totally Accurate Battle Simulator, Stick Fight the Game,
Mm,
Totally Accurate Battlegrounds, etc.
etc.
Evil Knievel, the never-ending jump.
Back to business.
But I like the idea of jumping on a bunch of trucks that are just hurtling towards you.
Yeah, it's cool.
Hurling towards you. I don't know, whatever. I'm bad at English.
No, it's good.
I enjoyed this game. I did. I think we should keep...
Yeah, we do it again.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there was interpretation issues, but we've created like 2 separate games out of this
exactly.
one
Maybe
idea.
Next time it'll be the first one will be written description. The next one will be your own description.
Yes,
I like it.
Cool.
Sweet. Well, with that, Steve, I would love to move on to the next topic, which is our Tech Cafe, starring you.
Yeah, so this week in the Tech Cafe, what I wanted to focus on, and even though it's not an indie game, it is definitely huge in the news, and it plays a big important role when it comes to tech itself. So Cyberpunk 2077 released on December 10th, and I know that we all have varying opinions and a lot of things that we want to discuss associated with this. What I'll do is just start with the tech, and then we can kind of talk about the game. Mm-hmm. So Cyberpunk is in the news from a controversial standpoint, which is one of the reasons why I said CD Projekt Red's having such a bad week, because their technical requirements are, to their own, testament, next gen, and therefore a lot of the last gen consoles, the PS4 and the Xbox One, are suffering greatly. But we are PC users, and so if you take a look at the Tech Cafe this week after the podcast is posted, you're going to see what CD Projekt Red is listed as their technical requirements. They actually have 7 different levels, which is most likely due to the fact that there was such a backlash in response to the technical requirements for this game.
It's a nice way of saying it.
Yeah, it's a nice way. But if we take a look at it, and I have posted it for us to look at, I wanted to kind of go through what I would consider to be the recommendation after having played it. I've messed around now. I personally fall into what is considered their high requirements category for standard play, and their minimum requirements for ray tracing, which just changes how the game kind of responds to light. It's not a huge factor, but it does kind of give it a little bit of a visual boost. But I've played with all of the different settings, and what I've noticed is that at their lowest possible setting, the game doesn't seem to live up to what the expectations were for Cyberpunk 2077. So whereas you can get away with playing the game, I personally would kind of sit in the recommended section, because at least you can get away with actually getting those really pretty vibrant visuals that they're expecting. So I'm going to be putting together an economy build that kind of goes along the lines of what they consider to be the recommended level. And I'll be posting that using PC Part Picker in the Tech Cafe for you guys to take a look at. I'm interested in what you guys have seen with your gameplay so far, and if you've played it, or what you've heard, and any kind of general discussion about this. But definitely the Tech Cafe is going to have some resources and information surrounding the technical requirements for this game.
Okay, so let's get into it really quick. I don't want to spend too much time on this, because
I'll give us 15 minutes.
Every bit of a topic on CD Projekt or on Cyberpunk is controversial. Every single thing, and there's a vocal community behind all of it. This is actually what I was initially referring to in the beginning of the episode. So call back really quick, where community response, feedback, and criticism should always be welcome. It steps over to the wrong part of criticism when you start writing death threats to developers whose jobs depend on getting the fucking game out. So, hey, the general, PSA Populous. To the very vocal pieces of shit on the internet. Don't be an asshole. These people have families and they have lives, and it's a shame too, because I know that I'm working with a rig that's probably considered above standard for most people, but the game itself has been fantastic for me through gameplay. Yeah. So it is kind of, it's disheartening. And I know that they say, the loudest voices on the internet represent only 1% of the actual opinion, but it still is
concerning when you see what you're talking about, which is this terrible negative backlash in all aspects, not just the game's technical, but I know there was a lot of like social controversy associated with it.
Yeah.
So Dave, is there anything you wanted to speak to on that? Anything you're interested in?
Social controversy, yes. Because I'm still an active Tumblr user. I get to be exposed to the opposite end of a fence, I guess, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just a different perspective on what has been upsetting people. So you've got the cis white perspective of people being angry that like they're highlighting trans so much, and then you've got the opposite perspective of people who are very much in that community and are trans or are BIPOC or any other LGBTQ. Correct me if I'm missing any sort of abbreviation there. But where that community has felt that the game has stepped too far into the direction of fetishizing trans, and it actually is its own form of transphobia, where you are, especially the grotesque nature of the shittiest people on the internet being like, I don't know what you trans people are all upset about. Oh, don't you love lady dicks? And it's like, okay, shut the fuck up. And it's like, it's that thing where it's like, no one's telling you that you need to make this like your new fetish. Nobody's saying that you need to like this. You don't have to be about this. Like, the point of it was that you were supposed to be able to play yourself as you feel you are represented. Right. I feel like, but instead it became this thing of like, we have to throw the trans thing into people's faces, and we have to like target that audience is what it ended up being.
Yeah.
It didn't end up being about representation. It ended up trying to go too far into like trying to gain a consumer audience that they went to the opposite end of being offensive. You know, I forget the name of the description where the opposite ends of the spectrum are actually so close together that they're basically the same thing.
Yeah, and I would want to point out one thing on that topic, and I do agree that there were some missteps that they took. Like specifically, when it comes to their attempted inclusion, they still tied pronouns to vocal structure, which I think was a poor decision on their part. They should have just allowed it to be a decision by the player. But one thing that really sticks out to me, and I understand why, because it is a representation in our culture, but it is based on a dystopian society, and so the whole concept is that this is what we would consider to be the most outlandish representation of what could happen when sexuality itself becomes so desensitized and normal that everything goes. And it's, you know, if you read any of like the science fiction that was written back in like the 40s, you know, the expectations for the direction the world was going in, because you have this really solid conservative base, and it's like we can't consider the progression, and so we just take it to the most extreme, and it usually involves just what they would have considered at the time to be, you know, outlandishly sexual, you know, thoughts and representations. And so Cyberpunk definitely is trying to dip its toe in that dystopian expectation of like, this is just normal, and so but it's so abnormal to, I guess, what you would consider to be our standards today.
I guess the problem for me there comes to abnormal to our standards, because like to me it's not abnormal. I have many different friends who are in various stages of transition and or who just identify off of the binary of what has been considered normal from the conservative standpoint for so long. But to me, all of that's normal. And I don't think that's different for. I'm not saying that for you or for Andres or for anybody else associated with this podcast that would be abnormal. But I think that's what really rubbed people the wrong way is that they took this concept and were like, what would it be like if like people thought this was normal? I was like, I don't know, it'd just be a better society, probably not a dystopian one.
Yeah. Well, so the inclusive aspect of it, the attempt at making it, represented within the game, I think should be something that, everybody considers when we talk about these like high-end RPGs. I think what I'm referring to mostly is like, especially if you've been playing the game, almost every major advertisement in the game for whatever corporate product they're trying to push involves something like a female model in a unitard where you can very, very distinctly see the outlined impressions of her dick, Right. And so it's like this whole the way that it's being represented as a form of media. I don't think that, and I agree with you, there's nothing abnormal in any way, and as far as how it's represented in the culture of the individual. I think this was more along the way of how it's represented in the media, because we don't really see that kind of stuff in the media today, in current world and times.
Right.
But
I understand where people get, especially now that you've given that description. I definitely understand where people get the point of it being like way more fetishized than like it needed.
It's
to
intentionally being that way, and I think that's where. And I understand that there's a line that you need to kind of draw, and it's okay or it's not okay. And unfortunately, when we talk about entertainment, a lot of times they need to cross that line in order to try and get people to talk about it. No press is bad press is the usual consideration when it comes to the entertainment industry.
Except for when all your press is bad press.
True, which is where CD Projekt Red is having a real big tough time right now. Actually, I was reading a financial article. They lost like $6.6 billion in stock value.
They're actually, saw a headline that investors are looking to sue now for a misrepresentation of what they were going to publish.
Yeah. Before we get into the technical aspects, all I want to say about the controversy of it all is that the issue that I see here is that is still a white man's mentality of how to take exaggerated trans people in the future. There was no trans person in that writing, because if you exaggerate it, you would have them normalized as like the clerk at the grocery store. You would have a trans person as like a femme identifying person with a deep voice as the main character who introduces you to everyone else. Like,
they needed to have more inclusivity in their design team, I think.
Yes, right. There needs to be more actual representation. That's the problem.
One vagina. There is one vagina. There are 3 dicks you can choose from, right?
And 3 different sizes.
And how many vaginas are there? Like, it's dumb. There's clearly And
the vocal thing, to me, just because of a QA standpoint, like that's the first thing I noticed, and I'm what would be considered cis trans white. Like I'm as vanilla as it gets in my identity outward, and yet I immediately picked up on the fact that this is something that's not really well put together. So I think that you're right, Andres. They should have had a little bit better of a representation in order to kind of catch these things in the design phase.
The best example of representation is fucking Animal Crossing. Half of that dev team was female, half of that dev team was male. Who knows how many were trans, if at all, hopefully some, but you can see how everyone is considered when you have a diverse dev team.
Yeah. And also I think it's worth noting that I don't have a game for an example right now, but I know that I've played them where like it literally, and not the best way to do it, but your gender is not it just basically it's like a ticker. It's like male voice 1, male voice 2, male voice 3, female voice 1, female voice 2, female voice 3, that kind of thing. But you can tie them to any character you want. It's not based on like what your character looks like is then your gender or anything like that. And
I think that's where they screwed up, was that they advertised themselves as being this platform of inclusivity, and then they failed.
Because I'm gay doesn't mean I understand the trans perspective, but I've been reading a lot of posts from trans people, and I like the thing that came out and stood out to me the most is a comment saying that it really fucking sucks to find out that the media you love hates you back. It really sucks to be waiting all year for a game that is supposed to be inclusive and supposed to allow you to be yourself in a video game, and now you have a month's worth of news that is kind of just reminding you that the world hates you. And so that sucks, and it sucks to be reminded about that all the time. So
this is a overpromise under-deliver aspect of the game, and unfortunately it carries a huge weight when it comes to the culture that we really want to be promoting and are just failing to do so.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I have no way to relate to it
game
personally as well. But
they exaggerated everything as what it could be. But it's like, but there are characters in that game that show you that they're that the devs loved, right? Like there are characters in Cyberpunk who you wouldn't consider fully horrible people, right? Exactly. Like, so why are how many of them are trans? How many respected
and unfortunately, it's interesting
that
they allow you to do that at the beginning from a creation standpoint, but they really don't represent any of that in the characters themselves throughout the gameplay. Sexuality and orientation and gender are not anything that's focused on in most of the gameplay I've done so far. It's really only in that character creation step and the way that your character interacts with the world moving forward. So it's a real shame that it wasn't implemented well.
And in that creativity, it's double-edged, right? In that creativity, you get the positive of you get to choose that representation, the negative of them not doing a great implementation of it. But on the one hand, I'm appreciative that they don't push any there's no like, oh, you chose the trans option, so like we're gonna throw that in your face from a story perspective too.
Yeah.
And
every story is the same regardless of your decision.
Which is good, but also it doesn't doesn't really cover any new ground. You know, it's not saying anything with it. It took an opportunity and it swung at it really hard and it missed entirely.
Yeah. And then to kind of talk about the next aspect was the technical side.
And
this is where
this is a tech cafe.
I think that I'm most disappointed in this aspect because I really do think that CD Projekt Red messed up when their full advertisement platform was next gen. This game is going to be better than anything you've ever seen, and then they turned around and they released it on what now is considered the last generation of consoles. And I think that was a huge misstep because they knew what was going to happen and they did it anyway. And it's a shame because now it's biting them in the ass.
And wasn't the whole point of Cyberpunk waiting so long to release because they were testing it on all the gens on all the systems to make sure it worked?
Right.
It's like, no, it was just PS5 and the new Xbox.
And I mean, at least the makers of those consoles have stepped up and said, hey, this doesn't work and we're not going to hold your money permanently. It speaks volumes at the major failure of CD Projekt Red that Microsoft and Sony had to say, hey, for the previous gen consoles, we'll just refund the purchase.
Yeah, and I think that the odd part here is that I feel like CD Projekt Red felt some form of pressure in making this game accessible to everyone. And I know that it's normal in the gaming industry for you to have a release across all platforms. But because of the capabilities of this game and the way that it was originally advertised and how it's actually playing out, I really think that they should have kept this a PC exclusive until it was ready to be released on the PlayStation 5 and on the Xbox Series X. Because we know for a fact that those consoles play it way better. Probably still not to the capabilities of a decent PC rig, but when you compare it to the PlayStation 4, where rendering is horrendous, and these beautiful, gorgeous cinematic sequences that they showed in the trailers, and then you get in there and it's just geometric and blocky, and it's barely playing, it's constantly breaking. Yeah, it's a shame, and I get that double-edged thing where it's like, I'm having a blast, this game's awesome, but I do feel for anybody who had that hype going in, was using a console purely because that's how they play their games. Yeah, and we're really screwed out of an experience. If the expectation was laid up front that you as a PlayStation 4 user or you as an Xbox S are not going to be able to play this game, we're sorry. Yes, they would have gotten backlash for that, but it would have been a lot less than what they're dealing with right now, having to rescind that capability after trying to release it to everybody.
Yeah, and it is the lesser of two evils, and it also hits that damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean, look at Destiny 2 releasing on console before releasing on PC, and how many people were upset, like, I'm not gonna fucking buy this game at all now. Or like the people who were like, well, I'm just mad that I have to buy it twice. And, that's like one of those things. And I understand both arguments of it. But I think you're right. I think that they would have been better off just, hey, PC's what we know best. We're doing that. We're going to iron out the kinks. Then we're going to get it out on the consoles as soon as possible. We are very sorry that we can't have this game for the holidays, but it's what it's.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame. But what I will say is, if you're listening in and you had a horrendous experience on the console and you still want to play this game and you are in the market for building your own computer, we'll definitely have something in the Tech Cafe by the time this posts to kind of give you an idea as to what I would consider to be the minimum specs that you want to go for. And there will be a large discussion about this moving forward, so feel free to join in on the conversation.
Thanks.
Yay.
Well, I mean, we've already been kind of sharing our thoughts here, so we might as well just already consider this the About Us segment.
Right. Let's do a little brief catch up.
Yeah, right. So let's say, I mean, I guess I'll start I'm trying to think. I was going to go to see my family, and that got canceled because, of course, we were going to get together in LA, and then it just got so much harder to travel out there. So unfortunately that had to cancel, which happy and sad about that, but that's probably like the most eventful thing that's been happening to me is that this December I've had to do all this crap of like, I rescheduled my flight, paid $50 for that. Like I was able to talk to them and get the flight, like the cheapest one that was all of this stuff. I got out unscathed, still owing $85. But it just sucked having to do that whole, like, I lost money on the insurance. I lost money on the booking fees. Never book with Skyscanner. Just saying.
Listen,
yeah, I'm
we're not looking for ads for them
all the way.
Skyscanner, if you're listening to this, fuck you.
Fuck you. Oh my god. Your phone people are really nice, but you have shady business practices, guys and gals. And then, I don't know, like, going into 2021 feels super uneventful. I'm gonna get together with some friends on Christmas, but that's probably it.
Right on.
Yeah, it's chill though.
Steve.
How about you, Dave?
Oh, okay, I'll go. My Christmas is gonna be, or by the time you listen to this, I believe it will have been pretty nice. Unfortunately, for the second year in a row, I can't see my own family, which makes me very sad. To not get choked up, I'm going to move past that. But we had the fortune, my wife and I, of moving near her parents, and her sister and her sister's boyfriend and their kid are all going to drive out and visit, and we're going to have a family Christmas. It's just, unfortunately, it's not my immediate family. It's all of my in-laws plus my chosen family of my wife, and
at least you got somebody.
Yeah, it'll be nice to have some level of that normalcy, but at the same time, once again, like with Andres, the travel thing just wasn't happening this year, and it is heartbreaking.
You getting choked up almost made all of the feelings that I've been pushing down resurface.
Yeah, I'm not good at hiding my feelings, so I'd
Join
rather
us next
just
on the QWERTY therapy.
yeah, I'd rather just move past. I'm excited. We got some Switch related gifts for Shona's sister and her boyfriend, so that we could play games online maybe together at some point in time.
Cool.
That'll be nice. Otherwise, I'm just looking forward to 2021 as trying to find a place where we can start to pick up the pieces that fell apart so badly this year, despite the fact that personally I had a pretty decent year. Outside of getting furloughed from my job, I've moved somewhere where I'm able to save more money. My wife has this incredible job currently, and fingers crossed, knock on wood, etc., that she'll get to keep it and move forward and develop herself professionally, and that I'll find something here as well. But it gave us the ability to buy a house too. So
Yeah.
I've had
That's
a
big.
relatively successful year.
Congrats.
Yeah.
So
And
proud
Steven.
of you,
Yeah.
Dave.
Thanks.
And my about me is very trivial relative to the problems that you guys are having, and I do genuinely feel sorry for that. I know that that's an issue that a lot of people are struggling with right now, with being able to access family during the holidays, especially since the holidays is usually the time of year that you really need to have those connections. So do not take what I'm about to say next in any way as making light of that. But personally, I have purchased an Oculus Quest 2. And this bad boy, which if you have the video segment, is taking up my camera screen right now. Hours of enjoyment, so cheap, easy to get into. I have a segment in the Tech Cafe about QWERTY's favorite things. This was my pick for this year. I think that it is a fantastic buy. If you're like the rest of the world right now and you have absolutely nothing to do and you have any money at all in your pockets for entertainment and you're just looking for something to pass the time, I do highly recommend it. It is fantastic. So for me, spending my time inside virtual reality because this reality is just horrendous.
But I still do need to read your description. That's a wireless one?
Yeah, so it's inside out, so it actually tracks from the headset. So it plays as a standalone, but I actually picked up a cable that lets me connect it to the PC directly, and that lets me use it in the same way that I was using the HTC Vive. And my God, take a look at the Tech Cafe. I'll probably have a discussion about it. I know VR was in question this past week, so we'll probably talk about it a little bit more. But it's a fantastic device, and it really cuts out on a lot of the issues I had in the previous generations of VR. So it's cheaper and it's better. I mean, what can you ask for?
And we're definitely getting into VR, especially everyone being stuck at home.
Yeah.
You know, you got to create those VR systems. I keep finding I think even Dave had, was it you? Shit. Somebody showed me a house tour that was a VR house tour. And I think that's incredibly common these days. And just
I've seen those, but I didn't show it to you.
They're not hard to capture
My real
either.
estate agent has that.
Yeah. And honestly, I could buy a $200 360 camera and get paid doing those. I mean, maybe they're a little more expensive, but there are some really affordable ones that you can just stick on a tripod.
You go to events.
Exactly.
I do want to change the subject only because we have to. We missed a quick topic very early on that we were supposed to cover for news, which was that Fall Guys did their holiday release.
Oh, yeah.
Andres and I played it.
Maybe there's a reason.
Here's my quick recap, is we weren't fans of it. If you like Fall Guys, this is more Fall Guys. It's good for that. If you kind of get tired of playing Fall Guys after a few rounds, you will still get tired of playing Fall Guys after a few rounds. That's what I've learned from playing it.
Yeah, it was cute. It had a new level that I had literally theorized as being the level they needed, and I didn't love it. So
it's like the worst level.
I know. I was just saying, they really need a level that is just a downhill slope where you're falling the whole time, and you have obstacles, and you have to fall. And the reason I was inspired was because of the cheese run. I don't know if you know about that, but when they roll a wheel of cheese down this hill in somewhere in Europe, and then everybody runs after it, and it's just this messy, fucked up hill of bodies flying. And it's entirely voluntary, and there's ambulances at the bottom, but it just made me think that would be a good Fall Guys level. They did it. I wasn't impressed. But it was. I want to still love Fall Guys. I really enjoyed playing it. I hate people typing dead game to it. I literally said that earlier. But that's also just me. So I think, immediately after Fall Guys, I think we started playing a game that was not from this year, but Oxygen Not Included has been this game that quickly took over QWERTYcast for the past 48 hours, maybe 4 days.
We've had you, Kenny, Kyle, and even Cam the one day,
and Walker,
all basically, and Walker.
Walker bought it,
and all of you were fucking streaming. I literally made a joke about it, and no one responded to it.
No, we were playing.
Hurt my
feelings. Are we Twitch streaming it at all?
No, they were all streaming their individual plays through Discord, and it was straight up. I got off the one day, and everyone had been. The last person that got off that day was Kenny at 4 a.m, and then I got on the next day, and it was 1 p.m. relatively, and and Kenny, Andres, and Kyle were streaming again. And I was like, what the? Like,
nobody's ever on that early. Nobody's been on that early since like Animal Crossing. Wait, so what happened was that Kyle bought it for me and Kenny because he's like, do you guys want to play this game with me? And I'm always this is a resource game. It's made by Klee Entertainment. They made Don't Starve. And so they have this, it's just like Prison Architect, where you have to manage all of these little NPCs, and then you have to build systems and over time improve those systems. And I'm always overwhelmed by those games. I feel like that would be the perfect game for you, Steve, but I'm always overwhelmed.
It does sound like it.
But watching everyone else play, I was able to ask questions. People were helping me out, and even seeing. So what happened that night was that Kyle had a work party, and then he took a nap after the party, came back to life, and then started playing. And so everyone, like, around 9 o'clock, he had woken up. So when Kenny and everyone else got off at 4 a.m., he never went to bed. I come on at, like, 11, and I'm like, hey, what are you up to? And I started playing with him because I woke up. And then, so there was somebody in that channel that we made for it for, like, at least 48 hours solid streaming.
We're going to have to check it out. And I'm going to have to force you guys to Twitch stream it at some point. So keep an eye out on our Twitch channel for Oxygen Not Included.
Yeah, oh my God, I'm obsessed. And you know what? I'll do a stream when I feel comfortable that I can, like, get far.
Kenny was showing me his, and he's killing it.
Oh my God. I got in, like, Thursday, and I already have, like, 14 hours in it. Plus.
Yeah.
But
like I meant like his management of resources is like, I mean, he's already self-sustaining.
Ridiculous. Oh, I hate it. Yeah, he's like, oh, here's my food production. Here's my little robot that picks it up and he puts it in the food bin, so I don't even have to think about it. I'm like, I have to think about too many things. Shut up. So yeah, that's also been the highlight of my December, just like randomly playing this game that I will probably stop playing entirely in like a week.
I've been mostly mired by Monster Sanctuary. As I wait for that new Temtem update, I've been playing the side-scrolling, almost like platformer, where the battles play like a Final Fantasy game. And it's just a monster collecting and battling game. But just the different perspective, I think, makes it fresh enough for me to keep going back to it and playing it. Each monster has their own skill tree rather than like different abilities that they learn. And those skill trees house the abilities that they can learn, and you can like have it so that you can like the same monster can either be a support or it can be an attack or like, so it has a lot of permutations to it that I love.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, you've been saying a lot of good stuff. I remember.
I've streamed it into Discord. I've also played that game for probably almost twice the amount of time that you've played Oxygen Not Included, and I've had it for probably about twice the amount of time that you've had that game.
Yeah, well, definitely a lot of good games to look forward to. I guess the next time we'll be
in 2021.
All talking to you guys is going to be in 2021.
Thank you guys. I'm glad that I get to finish it out with you guys. I'm glad that I have QWERTYcast, honestly. It's been the thing that kept me afloat this year. It really has. I've come to find myself in QWERTYcast voice channels every single day of the year.
I've already expressed my those same sentiments on the last episode, so I'll save you.
So please, if you're listening to this, join us. We have a lot of fun. If you don't, so whatever. And continue listening. We're around. We're gonna keep streaming. We're gonna keep playing games, talking about it, loving indie stuff. That's QWERTYcast. If you guys don't have anything else, then I think we can close it out.
This episode is brought to you by our Patreon subscribers, our QWERTYcast hosts, our audio engineer / musical master, Gary, and you, our listeners. If you would like to join our community, find us through QWERTYcast.com, which has links to all our platforms, including Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, Discord, and even more. On behalf of everyone here at QWERTYcast, thanks for listening. This is Dave saying QWERTYcast out.